Hey everyone, Nicole here with a video walkthrough of the Underdog Tools browser extension offered by RotoGrinders.com. If you don't have this extension installed, it's pretty simple. You can get a direct link, or you can go to the Chrome Web Store, the Microsoft Edge Web Store, or the Mozilla Firefox Web Store, and search for RotoGrinders and download the Underdog Tools extension. Once you've added it, it's browser specific. You go on to Underdog Fantasy, and there will be an extension option with the RG logo. We'll have this little logo. You can click on that, and you need to sign in with your RG credentials. Once you've done that, you'll get a notification saying that you've successfully signed in. Premium members will have additional content on Underdog now when they enter contests. Those live under the Pick'em tab. So when you go to Pick'em now, just make sure you refresh the page and it picks up the sign-in credentials. You're going to start to see RotoGrinders projections. This is very handy for player props. We've got interceptions, completions, the rush yards, everything you could want here for NFL, NBA, and MLB so far. So you'll see these projections, and then you can start comparing the difference with the RotoGrinders projections and the actual prop line offered by Underdog and decide which over and under picks you want to start making. Right, so this one's really close. This one is an over for us, those kind of things based on what we're seeing on the RG projections and the props offered. You can go by sport, or you can go to see all of them at the same time. So here's just NFL, just NBA, and this works on the over-under tab and also on the rivals tab. So under rivals, you're comparing two guys in a certain stat category with each other. So anywhere with the orange markings, you've got RotoGrinders projections active for them, and you're comparing that with each player. We hope this will make it much easier and quicker for you to go take our projections, compare them to the site's offerings, and then make informed decisions on what contest to enter and who to play. Until next time, this has been Nicole Valencia for RotoGrinders.com.
Good evening, Grinders. Welcome to the NFL Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderEd, Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter, joined by Will Priester, Chief Justice 06, to go over tonight's final regular season Monday night football game, the Browns at the Steelers. The current line is the Steelers -1. The total is 43.5. You can see here on scoresandodds.com, our sister site, where you can take a look at all the betting props, the betting lines from across a ton of books. And if you're going to bet, go to BetMGM, right? Go there, make a deposit, use the promo code GRINDERSBET. That's all one word, GRINDERSBET. You make a deposit, $10 bet, whatever you want. If your team scores a touchdown, 200 smackaroos straight in your pocket or into your account, right? It's not going to go directly into your pocket, but you'll get it anyway. So go to BetMGM, use the promo code GRINDERSBET. And if you're on YouTube right now and you're like, where is the chat? The chat is currently now in our Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. It's free for everyone. So as long as you have a RotoGrinders account, just a regular free account, you link yourself there, go to rotogrinders.com/Discord and join us in the live stream chat. You'll see the channel live-stream-chat. Feel free to type in your questions, type in your comments, talk amongst yourselves. Devin is in there, RG producer, posting the links. But it's the last Monday night football game of the regular season, Will, and it doesn't look like this game matters that much, right? I think the news, the two big pieces of news are Kareem Hunt is inactive, and the other piece of news is the Browns can't make the playoffs. And the Steelers pretty much can't make the playoffs. I mean, they would need to win out and then also get help. So, Will, are you treating this game like it will be a competitive game? Or should we look more towards, since both teams at least one team has not much to play for, that it's going to dramatically change the outcome? We also the other storyline, Narrative Street, Will, this is most likely, from all intents and purposes, Ben Roethlisberger's final home game of his career. Does that make you any more excited to roster Big Ben tonight?
No, not excited, but I actually do want to watch this game. I think, Big Ben, look, as he has progressed to the end of his career, he hasn't looked good at times, but, for all intents and purposes, we've seen his whole career, right? And he's had a good career. He's probably going into the Hall of Fame. So for that reason,
I don't think that's a probably, Will. He's definitely going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I threw that word out loosely. Let's tighten it up a bit. Big Ben is going to the Hall of Fame, and the sports card person in me absolutely knows that now's the time to pick up a few of his rookie cards, PSA 10s or BGS 10s. I haven't probably talked about that in a while, but people, now's the time. We're getting close here. Also, I still don't want to play Big Ben for fantasy purposes. I mean, maybe the gunslinger in him comes out for one night only, but I still think the skill position players have a little bit more value in this game than both quarterbacks. I also
think that's what the field's going to do also.
Yeah, but that might be true, Blender, but I don't think the field is going to build non-quarterback lineups. I don't see it. Like, we've got Baker at 43 and Ben at 34. I don't think we see a lot of non-QB lineups, period. Like, I'm willing to take a full non-QB approach and just play all the other good skill position guys in this. The problem is you probably need one of them because they're going to outscore half of the skill position players. And that's my dilemma, but
the running backs are don't bury the lead. I mean, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb without Kareem Hunt in, Najee Harris, who plays almost 100% of the snaps for the Steelers. The Steelers are favored in this game. They're going to be the most owned players, and I have to me, I'm playing. This is the angle that I'm playing. Will. I'm not saying I have 10 lineups. I think I have Chubb I have 2 Chubb captains and 2 Chubb flexes, but the rest non-Chubb lineups. I think with the Browns having nothing to play for, Nick Chubb is 11-6. Like, yes, his rushing prop is 89.5. He's the most likely to score a touchdown for the Browns. Against the Steelers' rush defense is not very good. But is there any incentive to run him 25 times? Like, I've taken several shots in my lineups. I have 4 lineups that I have Dearness Johnson at 4,800.
That's the approach. I like it.
So that not necessarily Chubb, like, oh, Chubb won't play or anything, but maybe this is more of a split in the backfield than what people would think. And I think Chubb and Harris are by far the highest owned plays and the best projected plays on the slate, and I'm more likely to play Harris on the Steelers side because at least the Steelers have something to play for, possibly, and they'll need help. And there's really not many people. There's really no one behind Najee Harris, like Benny Snell, those types of guys. And I think he's more likely to play 95% of the snaps than Chubb to play 80+% of the snaps. Now, obviously, I could be wrong. They could just run him out. I view the same thing with Jarvis Landry. Like, is there any reason for Jarvis Landry to play 95% of the snaps today in a game that it doesn't matter if the Browns win or not? So I'm playing a bunch more of Donovan Peoples-Jones at 5,000. So I'm kind of like that. To me, that's my overall perspective. I'm playing a lot more Steelers in my lineups than Browns, which means I'm playing a lot more Big Ben in my lineups than Baker Mayfield. And I'm just hoping that the Browns may spread out the snaps much wider in this game than they would in previous games, just due to the fact I'm going to treat this almost like it's a week 17 type of game for the Browns. Not fully so. I mean, a week like next week, they may just say Chubb is inactive and not even going to play at all. But maybe I'll take a sub 10% owned Dearness Johnson. And if Nick Chubb is going to be like 46, we have him at 46% owned in the flex and nearly 15% owned in the captain. Like, if I could bust those lineups and Chubb just sits there with like 6 points or something and no touchdowns, like I think that's a clearer path to first place with something that does make sense. It's not like I'm rooting for an injury. It's something that does my opinion, my angle. And I'm fine if you want to treat it like this is just a normal game and both teams are going to play full strength. That's perfectly fine. But I think that there's more upside in me treating the Browns as if they're not going to really play as hard and play the starters as much as possible in comparison to the ownership. And the ownership is reflected as if like this is a normal regular season game.
I think the Browns still play. I gotta think there's got to be some bonus money out there for some of these guys, and that's
bonus of what? What these guys don't barely. The Browns don't barely rack up stats. I mean, what bonuses could there be?
Well, Nick Chubb could have a bonus or something. Myles Garrett could have a bonus. I'm just saying. I don't know for sure, but they could have some bonus opportunities, and then they could just be playing for pride's sake, where they say, "Look, we don't want to finish as a 500 team. Let's at least go out at 10-8." I know they're 8-8 right now, but maybe they want to go out at 10-8. And they want to win this game and then try to beat the Bengals next week at home and spoil their party, even though they're clearly leading the division. I think the Browns at least play full strength tonight. Monday Night Football, big stage. I don't think they come out and just try to disappoint us. Maybe next week is the week.
Okay, well, I'm trying to get on it early. It's a showdown contest. And instead of playing Dearness Johnson on like a main slate or anything, 4,800, why not give it a shot. All I'm saying is that it's a what I'm saying is not crazy.
No, not at all. Listen, I know where you're at. We just have to.
Yeah, but sometimes I get crazy. This is just like normal crazy.
Yeah. I just happen to think the Browns are going to play tonight, and you're speculating that they could, and they still could. Like, they could dial Nick. They could still play him and dial him back to 70%, 60%. Like, I understand that angle too. I just think maybe they run him full strength tonight and then give him.
Just leave him inactive next week and just like your season's done and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So are you playing a bunch of Nick Chubb?
Yeah, I mean, and it's got nothing to do with Nick Chubb. Let me just put that out there. The reason I like Nick Chubb has nothing to do with Nick Chubb, even though he's been a good running back. It's got the Steelers run defense. I mean, Jordan, I played Deontay Foreman against this run defense, and everybody probably thought I was crazy. I said, listen, the Steelers defense is bad, and Deontay Foreman had a day. I just started streaming running backs against this team, and it's worked out fine, and I don't want to hop off the train now. When Nick Chubb he could essentially have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns here.
I agree with you, assuming that he plays as much as he should be playing, right? But I mean, I just see the ownership going there as well. So you would much rather play Nick Chubb, not really like the problem with the Browns on the slate is that I'm like, I'm not thrilled about playing any of the Browns. I mean, like outside of Nick Chubb, it's like I'm not really thrilled about paying $8,400 for Landry, or even $5,000 for Donovan Peoples-Jones, or like you go down and like one of 3 possible tight ends. Who knows? You know, they're not cheap. Austin Hooper's $5,200, and Njoku's $4,200. Bryant's $3,000. Like I think when they're all in together, they're all overpriced.
Yeah.
I prefer the kickers over a lot of the cheaper guys.
Oh man, you know, I'm in for the kickers.
I think the quality cheap guys are on the Steelers. I think taking a shot on Ray McLeod or James Washington. But I also think that those are going to be the popular kind of cheap punty type plays, because anything below them is it's a stretch. It's like the cheap plays on the slate are not very good. But I think that what'll end up happening is that there's going to be so many lineups that have Chubb and Harris in it that any other type of construction will just get you a little bit more different by not having one. I think it's more likely there'll be more Chubb Harris lineups than there will be Ben Roethlisberger, Baker Mayfield lineups. So it's very rare that we see like quarterbacks like not be as owned on a showdown slate in comparison to the running backs. That I don't mind taking a shot. Out of my 10 lineups, I have 9 lineups with Ben Roethlisberger in, right? And it's primarily because if I'm not playing Nick Chubb, like I can now play Harris and Deontay Johnson. I could play, and if I'm not playing Landry in that lineup, I can afford the more expensive Steelers and then take shots with guys like Peoples-Jones and Dearness Johnson in the low range, if not the kickers. So it's like, that's the angle I'm going with. Obviously, if I had 100 lineups, I'd probably have multiple different types of configurations. But with only 10, it's like my style when I get less and less lineups is that I just eliminate stuff. It's like, well, I'm not playing Rashard Higgins. And if he gets there, then I lose. So then whatever I'm not playing the Browns defense. Like if they get there, whatever. It doesn't fit into what I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing. It sounds like you're going a little bit more chalky construction by, I mean, are you just not going to play Harris? Because if you don't play Harris and then you don't play Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, what are you doing with the Steelers side?
Yeah, I mean, I like all these guys. I think for me, it's one of those nights where you look up and someone hits the millie, right? Someone hits it, and you're like, good God, I could have easily built that lineup, right? That's kind of how I'm feeling about this slate tonight. And so I don't want to, overlook what I feel like are the, the obvious plays. So of course, for sure, I'm in on the kickers, right? Like I always feel like the kickers are kind of like right in that tweener spot where, okay, if one kicks a 50-yarder, a 40-yarder, a 30-yarder, and 2 extra points, like they're right in that, ability to have 12, 13, 14 points, which can get you there. On this slate, I think the kickers are probably more important than usual. So I really like them a lot. And then, like I said, the obvious plays, which is why I'm not so interested in the quarterbacks as much. Deontay Johnson feels like one of the obvious plays. Chase Claypool, even though he doesn't have the same market share, feels like one of the obvious plays. Both running backs feel like the obvious plays. And so I feel like I'm just left with which quarterback do I think has the highest upside? And man.
You think it's Mayfield?
No, that's what I was going to say.
That's how
it feels like your face looks like that.
It's like, you can't believe you're saying that Big Ben is the one with more upside.
Yeah, but it feels like Big Ben, and because they will push the ball occasionally. They will go for it on 4th down when they shouldn't, right? They'll go for it on 4th and 2 at the 20-yard line when they should kick a field goal, which in a sense, okay, yeah, it could hurt Boswell, but he's got a little bit of leg. So, the way I always think about the kickers, and I'll come back to my point in a second, is I always think the kicker's best chance are the first drive of the first half and the last drive of the first half. Those are always their best chances to get points, right? Because on the first drive, they're not as, they want to get some points on the board. They're not as, they don't feel the pressure of, we got to get a touchdown because the other team scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. And the last drive is like, okay, we're in a 2-minute drill. We want to score a touchdown, but let's get in field goal range so we can get some points before the half. Those are their best chances in the first half, I always feel like. And so, that's another reason why I love the kickers, because typically those first half kicks at the end are going to be 40 yards or 50 yards. And I don't have any statistics to prove this, but I probably can work my way into a model of sorts. And maybe we can get something like that and call it kicker IQ or something like that. We don't have to. Kickers aren't that important. But back to my point, I'm definitely not playing both quarterbacks. And I feel comfortable fading Baker Mayfield completely. I think Big Ben has a little bit more upside than he does. And, it's sad
he has
to
the
say
higher
this
prop also. I mean, if we take a look at just on the props, Baker Mayfield at BetMGM is 221.5 and Ben is 241.5, which these are still low quarterback props in general. But yeah, you have to, I mean, I'm not a narrative person. You know me, I go strictly by the numbers. But you have to add a little bit that if this is going to be his last home game in Pittsburgh, don't you think maybe, since they don't have much to play for, that he's more likely to just like, I'm going to try to throw the ball more than 7 yards today for the last time. Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit more upside that there's going to be maybe some less check down, some more pass plays called than the Browns who does. I think the Browns are more likely to let's make sure Baker Mayfield doesn't get killed, even though I don't think he's that great of a quarterback to protect for the future anyway. But that I'm leaning towards Roethlisberger. Only for that matter that, maybe they let him sling the ball a bit, but maybe he throws 4 interceptions. I mean, like just because he throws the ball a lot doesn't mean he's going to rack up fantasy points.
And Glenn, it's funny you should say that because there's an opportunity for 15x builds on Prize Picks. And man, Baker Mayfield under first half passing yards at 107.5. And Big Ben over a half interception feels like the right play. I mean, it absolutely does. So he very well may sling it tonight and get into some trouble. But I also think that means he will be rolling here, by trying to push it down the field and put on a performance. Dare we say Kobe Bryant-esque? I'm using that as an example because hear me out.
That ain't happening. Come on. Come on, Will. Really?
Hear my approach here.
400 yards and 7 touchdowns. No, that ain't happening.
But 403, and Ben hasn't done that in years. But hear my point here. My point is that he is a legend for the Steelers. And so I'm saying they may give him a chance to let it loose a little bit, which is going to help Najee Harrison, help Deontay Johnson. It's going to be emotional for him, I'm sure. Like I said, in the Kobe Bryant game, they basically said, hey, man, you go ahead and roll. And they were playing Utah, and he ended up spoiling their chance. But they said, hey, man, go ahead, carry us to the promised land tonight. They gave him his moment. And so what I'm saying is perhaps they could give Big Ben his moment last time at Hines,
but he has to take it though. Right. They can give it to him. We've seen him giving moments and him throwing them away. I mean, but he still has to do it, right? Well, but the point that you're making is very similar to mine. That giving him the moment may be like, oh, we're going to call more pass plays, or we're going to give you more options at the line to audible, and feel free to go out and have fun for your last home game. Yeah, and that I think there's upside in that, but just understand the downside is we've seen Big Ben throw the ball the past 2 or 3 years. Giving him the go out and throw the ball 50 times can mean that the Browns defense scores 30 fantasy points because there's 2 pick sixes, 4 sacks, and 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I get it. And look, I mean, now that you said that, here we go. It's
8:15 lock, by the way. Devin wants to let you know. 8:15.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks. This is all about me putting a few things in place here.
Chaos Agent 24 asks, if you think the Browns are not going to play their starters full time, how many lineups would you have Anthony Schwartz in? Well, you shouldn't think in terms of how many lineups. I don't have Anthony Schwartz in any of my lineups, but that I think is perfectly viable if you want to punt at the bottom. I think you're more likely to play Schwartz in a lineup that Landry isn't in. I think it's more likely that if they're going to even out the snap counts, it's Landry's ones that are going to take the hit. Like the other guys are younger. Like I don't think they have any reason to oh, we're going to limit the snaps of Rashard Higgins. Like they don't care. Or Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think it's going to be more Landry. So even if you put Anthony Schwartz out there, he's still going to be the fourth receiver. And even if Landry doesn't play as many snaps, he's still only going to be the third receiver, right? And then you got the tight ends who actually get more receptions than the third receiver as it is. So like, is he a click and pray type of thing? Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd be more inclined to play someone like Anthony Schwartz than play anyone underneath, than play Benny Snell, Zach Gentry, Cody White, Kalen Ballage, Demetric Felton. Right, I'd be more inclined to play that, but it would be Schwartz would be in a lineup where I'm not like you wouldn't play Chubb, you wouldn't play Landry, you'd play Baker with them, like the Chubb and Landry are the ones that I'd be more, especially at their prices at 8,400 and 11.6. That if they're going to take it easy this game, it's going to be on those guys and not the rest, not anyone else. I don't think they care that much about limiting Austin Hooper's snaps or David Njoku or Harrison. Like I think it's going to be those two main guys, Chubb and Landry. If they do, like I said, maybe they don't. But since Landry is going to be owned and Chubb may be the highest owned player on the entire slate, to me, I see the easiest path for me is to build my lineups with that type of angle and hope it comes through.
I'm with you 100%. I still like Chubb. I'm really stuck between maybe a Chubb captain or a Deontay Johnson captain. Just because, Najee is going to get work, and I'm not worried about that. Like he's going to get work. It's just the question is how, because the projections are close enough to me to where I feel like Johnson, just on volume, let's say Johnson goes 10 catches today, Jordan, rather than 7 or 8, right? If he goes for 10 catches, that means that my bookie's probably got 80 plus yards in this spot. He's probably got 80 plus, right? And so if he's got 80 plus yards and 10, that's already 18 points. If he happens to get in the end zone, now he's sitting around 24 points. And that's going to put him squarely in play for captain. On a slate like this, I'm saying, which would be, a kind of against the grain in terms of everybody wanting to play Nick Chubb or Najee Harris in the captain itself.
But are you on board with buying? I mean, the thing is about Chubb is like you're not like into Chubb, you're just into attacking the Steelers' run defense.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why not take a shot on Dearness Johnson?
Yeah.
You could play both. Hey, maybe you play both of them. I think I actually think that's completely valid. In a low-scoring game, even if Chubb could get 101, still be in the optimal lineup, and Dearness Johnson could get 50 and 1 and also be in the optimal lineup at 4,800. So out of my 10 lineups, I don't have one that has both of them in it, but I would not exclude. I would not make a group that eliminates them. Maybe if Chubb was in the captain, you wouldn't put Dearness Johnson in the flex, but I think both in the flex, I think is perfectly viable. This is trending towards being a lower scoring game. So I'm not as concerned about, I need two players that could both get 20 fantasy points at the same time.
Yeah.
But obviously with Chubb and the captain, you kind of want him to get as many as possible. So you don't want Dearness Johnson to be vulturing him. But it's one of the few slates where I think playing both running backs at these prices is viable. Just that I think at Chubb's own, I'm going to repeat it over again. Chubb is the best projected player on the entire slate, assuming that he gets his normal workload with Kareem Hunt out, as we've seen the entire season. The field is rostering him at that rate. So, like, yes, he's the best projected player. He's the most likely captain, right? I get it all. But if I'm looking to win first place solo or close to solo, what is the easiest path for me to get there, right? For Chubb to a snowflake.
Yeah.
Now, if Chubb snowflakes, what's the correlation to that? Either the Browns throw a ton, right? Put up a ton of points in the air, or the Browns completely fail, like no one gets there, and Steelers 5-1 lineups are the ones that get there, or it's a more competitive game, but the rushing production comes through Dearness Johnson. Maybe Nick Chubb only plays 60% of the snaps, and Dearness Johnson's in there in between the 20 because they're going back and forth, and Dearness Johnson has 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's like, well, now Nick Chubb's sitting there with 8 fantasy points, and the rest of the field, has a snowflake in it. So understand, I'm doing it for that reason. Not that, you know me, Will. I mean, we've been saying this on the shows, on the pre-lock shows, for the entire season. It's like, it's not about being the most probable. It's about what's the most profitable. Yeah, it's going to happen less often, but when it does happen, I make way more money than I should be making because the field is overvaluing a specific player.
Absolutely.
For the win in the chat says, no Baker, Chubb, captain, all rushing touchdowns. Or you played Dearness Johnson in the captain. He says he got Dearness Johnson 12 captains so far out of probably playing 150. If I was playing a lot of lineups, I may have some, but I don't know. I mean, yes, obviously he could be the optimal captain also, but according to Slate IQ, Slate IQ has Kareem Hunt in, so it's hard to go by any of this anymore. But I'm not against that. Just because I don't have it in 10 lineups, if I was building 150 lineups, I would absolutely have Dearness Johnson the captain in some. Yeah. But I also have Chubb and captain in some of them also. I mean, like, I'm going to diversify, but I would have less Chubb than the field. I would be way under on Chubb and the captain compared to everyone else. So I think he's over-owned. I think people are rostering as if he's going to get, with Hunt, especially with Kareem Hunt out, like, oh, he's just going to get 90% of the snaps. And I just see no feasible reason why the Browns need to do that. But we also seen, Will, us trying to predict rational coaching is a lost cause.
Yeah, just don't even try to do that. I mean, anyway, I'm not going to get into Jim Harbaugh or any of these guys' heads where, we look and I think it's the right thing to do. And they totally go against the grain. Totally. And Mike Tomlin is one that will totally go against the grain tonight. I'm telling you right now, 4th and 10 from the 35, and he'll go for it.
He's one of those coaches that knows you should go for it more often than not, and then doesn't go for it on the obvious spots and goes for it on the ones where it's a toss-up. Like it'll be 4th and 1 on the opposing 45.
Yeah.
And he punts it. And then on like 4th and 12 on their own, 30, they're like, instead of kicking a 47-yard field goal, let's just go for the 10 yards. It's like,
let's go for it. What?
Right. At those points, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And he's done that before. This is not an exaggeration. He's done this.
Robbery asks, in order for me to try to solo take down the large field GPP, is it a bad move to leave at least 1K on the table? No, you can leave 10K on the table. Your goal is to not be duplicated. At least 1K on the table. Dude, when playing large field GPPs, I've left 10K on the table, especially in lower scoring games. Leave as much on the table as you want. And it's more that you shouldn't be spending most of your salary. If you're playing a large field GPP and you're spending 49,000 and above in your lineup, and you're playing a lineup that has everyone that's over double digit owned, you might as well just throw that lineup out. I mean, like you just throw it out completely. So it's like any lineup that's 49K plus that doesn't contain at least one single-digit owned player. And even if it contains one single-digit owned player, that lineup may still be duplicated 64 times, right? But just in general, that maybe don't spend all of your salary. And if you spend all your salary, like if you spend all your salary, if you're like, I'm going to play Nick Chubb, Harris, Johnson, and like the only way that you could jam those in is by having Cody White, the $400 wide receiver in it. Well, he's going to be like 1% owned. So like, then that's fine. You could have a $50,000 lineup then, right? Because you're at least containing a player that the only way to fit all these guys in is by playing someone, Andy Janovich or something like that, and hoping, he gets something, or hoping that the other 5 guys get so many points that the only way to fit them all in your lineup with one of the captain is by taking a 0 by a $400, $200 player. You could do that. Like I've always said on the DFS pregame show, as well as in my course, theoryofdfs.com, it's about lineups. It's not about players. You're building lineups. Okay. So you want to build lineups that have the highest chance of winning first place for as much money as possible, regardless if it's not the most probable outcome. Your goal is not to win tonight. Your goal is to build lineups over the course of hundreds of slates so that in the course of hundreds of slates, you win one of them, but when you win one of them, you win $500,000 in the process.
Correct.
You've lost all the other ones, but then you win $500,000 and it makes up all those losses and you still have $400,000 worth of profit.
There you go. There you go.
So what do you got? So you're doing one lineup, right?
Of course.
You got both kickers. Let me guess. Do you got both kickers in there?
No, I remember I couldn't do it this time.
Okay.
Because
I'm playing the game of predict Will's lineup.
Yeah. There
You got at least one of the kickers in the lineup?
You know this. You know I've got one.
Do you got McLaughlin?
No,
You got Boswell. You got okay. So you got Boswell in the flex. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I've got Boswell.
Okay. Do you have Chubb in the captain?
I don't.
Okay. Do you got Harris in the captain?
I don't.
Do you got Deontay Johnson in the captain?
I do.
Okay, so you got Deontay Johnson in the captain. I'm going to assume, but it doesn't have to be, that you're playing Big Ben in the flex.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that would make sense with Deontay Johnson in the captain. So you got an average remaining salary of $7,000. Are you playing Chubb in the flex?
I do have Chubb.
Okay. That means you can't play Harris.
Not playing Najee.
Right, because you only got 4,700 remaining salary. Okay, so you got Nick Chubb there. You got it. Are you playing 2 Browns?
Possibly. I'm at the last one, and if the way I'm building this lineup is, I think I'm going to have to play someone that I didn't want to play because of how the build is going.
Who don't you want to play?
I don't want to play James Washington.
Oh, you don't want to play James Washington.
Yep, I don't want to.
So you play Washington and Claypool. So basically, you're going for a 5-1 onslaught with Pittsburgh and Chubb being the only Brown.
Correct.
I think in this construction, you'd play, if you're going to play 3 Pittsburgh Steelers receivers, you'd play, and no Najee Harris, you'd play Ben in the captain.
Yeah, but you're right.
Right, because if you're not playing Harris, and you're saying Harris doesn't get any rushing touchdowns, Deontay Johnson gets a 100-yard bonus and a touchdown. And how does Washington and Claypool needs a touchdown to get there? So it's like if all these guys get touchdowns and Harris gets none of them, Ben's sitting there with 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and more likely to be the winning captain in this lineup than Deontay Johnson. Like if you were to take out Claypool, for instance, like you're stuck here now with Roethlisberger, Johnson, and the captain. Like if you were to play, for instance, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then like Ray McLeod or something like that and leave money on the table, like then that makes sense. Then it's like, okay, Ben throws 250 and 2 touchdowns, and Deontay Johnson sitting there with going 10 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. And you don't have to worry. And Ray McLeod is like what, like 4 for 50 or something?
Yeah.
I think this makes more sense for Ben not to be the highest scoring player and still having Deontay Johnson be the highest scoring player. But once you start adding 3 wide receivers and no Najee Harris, I mean, yes, obviously you could still get there, but I think it's more likely for all of your players to hit ceilings. It's most likely that Ben's the one that's sitting with the highest total. You get what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely get it, man.
Yeah, but to click on that Big Ben captain button, that's just too tough.
I mean, it's not as tough as it seems. It's just, man, do I really want to do this?
Because let's see if you do it the other way. Okay, so I'm going to go to Ben Roethlisberger, play him in the captain. Okay, so let's plug him in the captain. Now I play those 3 receivers. So I play Deontay Johnson, play Chase Claypool, and I play James Washington. Right? You still have, and then you're still playing Chubb. So let's get Chubb in there. You have 4,500 left, so you can play Boswell. You can play kicker. I mean, essentially playing the same lineup. You could play Boswell, right? I mean, it's essentially the same lineup as before, just that you're leaving 500 on the table because you're putting in Ben Roethlisberger instead of Deontay Johnson in the captain spot.
Correct.
Right?
I tell you, this is where single entry gets tedious.
Right. So for me, I just play both lineups.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you're playing
tedious.
single entry, you could play 2 single entry contests and play one and one and one and the other. Right. I mean, that's what I do. I'm playing multiple single entry contests tonight. Right. And I just put one here and then a different lineup and a different one and play 2 of them. Because wouldn't you beat yourself up if like you got everything right other than the captain position and be like, yeah, if you just listen to Jordan, you'd have won $50,000 or whatever.
Yeah, just play Big Ben.
I'm trying to guilt you.
Just play Big Ben.
Playing Big Ben in the captain. I'm trying.
Oh man, and you know, the problem is, or not. So I don't want to say problem. I don't legitimately think Ben is going for over 300. Like if
but that isn't that controversial to say.
No, I know, because he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that as much in his whole career as people think, even when he was completely healthy. The thing is, though,
he's hit 300 yards this season, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying just over his career, he's never been like a guy that's going over 300 every game like a Brady when Brady's hot. You know what I mean? Like he's going to have splashes.
He has 2 this season. He has 2. One against Cincinnati and one against Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had splashes. But so what I'm thinking is this. How Big Ben would get there tonight is they would drive the ball down the field multiple times on the Browns. And he's getting, some 20-yard touchdowns, 10-yard touchdowns, and 3. And so he could end up with 3 touchdowns, 230-ish. You know what I mean? And a couple interceptions and get there.
I mean, the problem with Big Ben getting there is we take a look at these passing yard totals. Like he got to 318 yards against Cincinnati on 38 completions.
Right.
That's less than an average. That's like 7, 8 yard average. And this other time with 308, 28 completions. So just a little over 10 yards. I mean, that pretty much we're highlighting why Big Ben is retiring.
Right.
Because if you can't throw more than 8 yards, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So like, I'm just hoping that he just throws his arm out today.
And also we're highlighting why Tom Brady keeps playing football.
Right. Because he can throw the ball 20, 30 yards down the field.
He's pushing it down the field. Yeah. Pushing it down the field. Oh, and Devin comes in with 4 minutes until lock. Thank you, Devin.
Right.
Thank
Is
you.
it in? I mean, you got 3 minutes.
We're here for you,
we're
Will.
good.
We're here for you, Will.
All good here. All is
So
good.
have I convinced you to or to not play Ben Roethlisberger in the captain spot?
I can't.
In that construct, it's not playing Ben. It's just you're going to play 3 of his wide receivers and no Najee Harris. It makes more sense to play him in the cap. That's all I'm saying. Just to put things into perspective, in my 10 lineups, I have 0 Big Ben in the captain. Okay, so I'm not saying that you should, but I also don't have lineups that have 3 of his wide receivers and no Najee Harris.
Yes.
Chaos Agent 24 says Ben Roethlisberger out of 247 games has 74 games over 300 yards.
Say that one
He
more
used
time.
to throw the ball a ton. I remember a while ago. Didn't the Steelers used to pass the ball 50 times a game?
Say that one more time though. Give me those numbers again.
74 out of 247 games.
Less than half. Okay.
Obviously less than half. You couldn't do that math in your head? About 30% of the time.
Yeah. There it is.
And Ben Roethlisberger is going to be like 30% owned. So why not do it?
I mean,
you're playing him in the flex in that lineup, so do whatever you want. I don't care.
yeah.
Right. For the Win says right. He's had big right. Didn't he play with Antonio Brown? He's played with Juju. Did he play with Hines Ward?
Hines Ward.
Early in his career, I stopped following football for so long that I don't know.
Good question.
When did Hines Ward retire? Somewhere in the mid 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Roethlisberger's been in the league for like 15 years, right?
Correct.
So he should be right. I'm not crazy. He's had receivers. Obviously, Antonio Brown, he almost can't get a better receiver than that as long as he stays with his uniform on the field.
Well, he probably should have called Antonio and see if he wanted to come back for
one game.
For one game. One game. Come on back, Antonio. Come
the
on
chat
down.
says that they played together. That Hines Ward was there in the early part of Big Ben's career. Ben was a rookie in 2005. Yeah. He should have thrown some balls to Hines Ward, right?
Yeah.
Great Steelers receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, interesting build tonight. But I do agree with you. But now that we're at lock, I mean, I think the Dearness Johnson play was definitely one that is warranted because, he's going to get some work anyway. It's not like he's not going to play at all tonight. And, without, like you said, with how bad the Steelers run defense is, I mean, he breaks a 40-yard touchdown. He's pretty much auto optimal almost if he does anything else, unless Boswell and Chase McLaughlin, kick 5 field goals or something like that.
Okay, doke. So we are at lock. We got Steelers Browns coming up. Wonderful game. Just kidding. Probably not. Probably not going to be the greatest of games, but that's going to be it for us. There is one more Monday Night Football game. It's a playoff. When did they start doing Monday Night Football playoff games?
Well, they're probably doing it this year because of the extended schedule, perhaps, and how they got to play these games now. So maybe that's why this. We get one more game this season. They got this, a slightly new playoff format. Anyway,
but we'll be back in 2 weeks for a final NFL pre-lock show together. Because I was going to say it's been real this season. I always enjoy it. You're one of the few hosts here at RotoGrinders that I could say something and then that it's perfectly fine for you to talk for 6 minutes straight. Also, well, that's a compliment. I'm saying that as a compliment because a lot of times it's when people say that I talk too much. It's more the fact that I'm used to talking to people that if you just say something, I'm going to say something for 15 seconds and then shut up. It's like I feel like I need to fill in all the time, and I like just saying, "Here, how am I not crazy?" And then you go off for 5 minutes, and it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it's osmosis. we got this whole, we're
I don't think
building
it's osmosis. I
no,
don't think it's
wrong word there.
it's chemistry of some type, but
Chemistry,
it's not osmosis.
yeah. But we got, we got a gumbo going, and you put in a few ingredients, I put in a few. We both stir it up, and at the end, we hope we've cooked up a winner.
I think I'm more of the broth, though. I think from volume standpoint, I'm more of the roux, right? I'm the roux, and you're more of the catfish.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, I hope everybody enjoyed this show this season. I mean, I know I did, coming on talking shop, and hopefully, I don't get fired, and we can run this thing back, because guess what? Showdown isn't going anywhere. So hopefully we can do this song and dance again next year, and provide good content to the people, and help some people take some things down.
Okay, so if we don't take anything down, I hope you guys take something down. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. And obviously, if you're going to be betting, go on BetMGM. Use the promo code GRINDERSBET. You'll get $200 right in your pocket in your first bet, $10 or more. Your team scores a touchdown. So do that. BetMGM. Use the promo code GRINDERSBET. And if we both have our channels in the Discord. So if you're a premium member, or even if you're not, Chiefs, yours is a free channel. Join us in the Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord, and continue the conversation. So for Will, I'm Jordan, aka Blenderhead, and this has been another edition of the NFL Pre-Lock Show here on rotogrinders.com.